Gentlemen, across the planet, I bring you a really wonderful musical treat this morning. Pray silence for live in studio, Mr. Colum Sands.
Every time I smell fresh bread, I see your hands again. Coaxing, shaping, rounding children from the fields of grain. Flowery fingers tend the fire in sunshine and in rain. Every time I smell fresh bread, I see your hands again. And it's for these hands we're singing. It's for these hands we're singing. For arms of love, not arms of war. It's for these hands we're singing. Every time I see fresh bread, I think of you again. Your work is slowly rising now in answer to the flame. It seems that every season turns in waiting's joyful game. Every time I see fresh bread, I see your hands again. And it's for these hands we're singing. It's for these hands we're singing. For arms of love, not arms of war. It's for these hands we're singing. Every time I taste fresh bread, I hear your voice again. The butter's melting on the knife, you call us each by name. A slice of life, a circle shared, that time can never claim. Every time I taste fresh bread, I see your hands again. And it's for these hands we're singing. It's for these hands we're singing. For arms of love, not arms of war. It's for these hands we're singing.
Colum, thank you. Thank you. I feel as though I've been wrapped in a warm cloak of nostalgia. You bring us back, a bit like Heaney in some of his poems, you bring us back to another age, standing at the sink peeling the potatoes, and here you are, fresh bread. We were all there. We were all in the kitchen.
Yeah, the bread, and it's such a powerful thing. I think the word companion comes from companus, with bread.
Wow.
It's that thing, you know, if you eat bread with someone, it's a sign of friendship. And
Yeah.
I wrote the song a few years ago. I was down in Australia at the National Festival there, and just wandering around the festival site, there was music from all over the world and food from all over the world. But I came upon, I think there were women from Turkey, and they were in a tent, and I could just see through a flap in the tent their hands mixing up the dough and the dust rising, the flour dust.
Oh, wow.
And I just thought, you know, this could be 2,000 years ago.
Absolutely.
It could be Ireland, it could be Africa,
Absolutely.
it could be anywhere. Women or men, like preparing bread and keeping the fire going. You know,
Yes.
and I think that I suppose today we spend so much of our lives, and I know we're feeding into a screen here, but we spend so much of our lives looking into screens, and it's just good to touch those, like you said, those basics of life. Like
You need I rather think to write songs that you write. You need to be a detective, quietly sitting on the wire of life, looking around and peeping up and down, and little things that might escape the gaze of an ordinary mortal are captured by the songwriter.
Yes, I never feel like I'm doing that, but it's a very good way to describe it. You're probably absorbing little things all the time. And Very often it is the detail that is really interesting and beautiful. I suppose just as a photographer or a painter, they might frame up a flower or a landscape with their lens, you know, something that you walk past every day yourself. Maybe that's part of the job of an artist, just to put a little frame around some of these ideas and things of everyday life.
I came across something I had written maybe 40 years ago, and my handwriting 40 years ago is the same handwriting as today. Do you sense that your style, your approach to songwriting, the content of your songs, are markedly different today to that which the way they were, say, 20, 30 years ago?
I think it changes all the time if you're going through different landscapes or mindscapes. So I try to reflect what's going on around me. But very often those are things that other people can identify with. That song I just did, you might remember McAlinden's Bread
Bakery,
Shop.
just
Yeah,
over
just
here.
up the road, wasn't it?
At the just Fernence the, which is a nice word, Fernence.
Yeah.
Fernence the railway gates.
Yes. That's
And the
right.
railway cabin was at the other side, and the man pulled the levers. Yeah, I do remember Michael Linden's.
Well, that particular song I just did, and it happens with many songs, people, they know someone or they feel something from that song. And Jerry McAlinden, son
indeed.
of the bakery family.
Yeah, and he's now in Europe. I believe.
Yes.
Well, we're all in Europe, but he's over there working on continental Europe, in Brussels perhaps.
But he told me a fantastic story, as many people do, about bread. He said his father had been ill for quite a while and wasn't able to get involved in the work of the bakery. But in his, one night he got up when he should have been in bed, and he hadn't been anywhere near the bakery for weeks, but he went into the bakery and he prepared dough for scones, and he rolled out the dough and he cut out enough scones for the whole family. And it was the last thing he did. He died there in his bakery. But Jerry was saying at the wake, they were eating these scones that he had made for them.
And did he die almost in the act of preparing the scones?
Jerry told me this right after a concert, and I may have the detail wrong, but I think Jerry said he actually died in that room where he prepared the scones.
Yeah, that's a wonderful story altogether.
There's another one, Ron, maybe I've told it to you before, but it's again about bread, but it's very much about answering your question about, do I write about the same things? In some ways, the bread is just such an everyday life thing, but it reflects in a broader way. And I was singing that song one night on Rathlin Island, and there's a woman called Sandra Weir came up to me afterwards. And Sandra was from, maybe still is, from the Shankill Road. And she told me this amazing story from 1974. Do you remember the Loyalist Workers' Strike?
I do.
And it was a strike about power sharing, and during the strike there was no power, as you may remember.
That's right.
The station up in Larne or wherever it was closed down. So there wasn't a lot of food around, and food supplies were running low. And there was no bread left in Sandra Weir's house on the Shankill Road. But her mother had heard that up on the Falls Road, some people had got an old generator going in a bakery, and they were baking bread up there. So the mother says, Sandra, away up you go to that bakery, get a few loaves of bread. There's not a bite of bread in the house, and hurry up and don't be long. And up Sandra went to that bakery, and when she got up to the bakery, she discovered there was a barricade across the street, cars piled on top of each other, burning.
As they were then.
Yeah. So she couldn't get into the bakery, but there were women coming out of the bakery on the other side, and they saw this girl standing there across the flames. And in that kind of universal way that women understand the need for nourishment, regardless of colour, creed, anything else, they knew they would have to get some bread across to her. And the only way they could think of doing was by throwing loaves of bread across the fire. And Sandra Weir describes this scene to me. She's standing in the street, flames, smoke, sparks rising up into the air, and suddenly out of the sky come these loaves of bread.
Manna from heaven.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And she said that after that night, she never looked on the other side in the same way again. And she told me the story had never been reported by the media. And I said, it's a beautiful story.
What a pity.
And I tell it everywhere I go. That's why I'm telling it to you now.
Lovely. Hold that thought. We're back in a moment.
Destination Newry. Keep it on. We're back in moments.
Bellini's Bar and Restaurant, Merchants Quay, Newry. Experience the passion of Bellini's in our Venetian-themed bar and restaurant. Home of great music, great atmosphere and great food. It's time to get dressed up and enjoy a night in Bellini's. For a quiet drink, first-class dining experience. Or dance the night away to the best live music. It has to be Bellini's. And don't forget our Renaissance Suite for banquets, weddings or conferences. Find Bellini's on Merchants Quay, Newry. Check our website for more, bellinisnewry.com.
If you want to watch this show from the comfort of your home on your TV, then all you have to do is get your hands on our brand new Roku box where you can watch all the amazing shows we have here at Destination Newry. Simply get yours now by calling us on 028 308 34010 and get yours today.
You've reached your destination.
Destination Newry, the morning programme into its last 15 minutes. In the company of Colum Sands in studio with me this morning. Colum, we were talking there about the power of music, and we were talking about how music unites all colours, all creeds, all nationalities. You have travelled a lot in your musical life all over the world. You were talking about Australia there. What have those travels told you about the state of humanity? I know we hear the stories of murder and dreadfulness and whatever else, but fundamentally when you meet human beings in these other countries, what are you meeting and what differences or similarities do you spot?
Well, people everywhere respond to music and to just someone listening to them. I'm a great listener. I go around listening as much as talking, and I mean, I love the piece you were doing earlier on this morning with the two men from the Newry Reporter. We do sit at night and someone appears on a screen with a serious face and says, here's the news, and they reel off what someone has decided is the news. But everybody has their own news, every locality and every individual. And I think it's very, very important to listen to those stories. And as a songwriter, I try to tell some of them back again to the world that I travel through. And so it may be a particular story, but that might remind someone else of their own story. And I think that's really, really important.
Is the world you travel through a beautiful world, or is it a world you want to keep at bay?
I love the world. I mean, like many other people, I'm probably waiting for the winter to stop scringing its teeth at the minute. Yeah. But no, it's beautiful. But we do tend to surround ourselves with concrete and tarmac and think that that's the world, if that's all you get a chance to see. But it's so important to see all the other stuff going around.
It's interesting you mention that. When Sister Paulina came to Ireland, Newry, from Africa, one of the great fascinations she had was the concrete, the tarmacadam. She says, where is the land? Where is the green? Where is the brown earth? She'd never seen the like of this before in her life, so much of it. So yes, people have a particular take on things as they move through. Your ability to do what you do, obviously it's nurtured on the Ryan Road with a family, it's in the family. To what extent, and maybe you've no way of telling this, but to what extent do you think it was born into you, God-given, if you like?
I think I grew up in an atmosphere where people were welcomed and made feel at home. You know, whenever someone came into the house.
Is that the start of music, real music? People being made feel at home, companionship?
Yes, I think it is, Ron. I think that one of the great tasks of art is to make people feel at home. You know, you might have a particular problem going on in your own life, and if you pick up maybe a book with a story that was told 2,000 years ago, maybe in China, and you see that the man or the woman in that story has exactly the same problem as you have, it makes you feel at home, and that, you know, the Irish language is this great thing, not that I'm fluent in Irish, but I have a bit of knowledge of it, that it doesn't put the person in the centre of the sentence, it puts the emotion. So rather than saying, I am happy, you say, happiness is upon me, or ta'ahas.
Yes.
And that implies a whole different mindset, that happiness is in the world or sorrow. It could be on you today, it could be on me tomorrow.
And it's also a commodity you can reach out and bring to yourself, so therefore the happiness is upon you.
Yes.
So you have a choice in it.
Exactly, and I think that's a very profound way of thinking, that we absorb here growing up. Even if you're not speaking Irish, you'll hear someone saying there's an awful hunger on me.
Yes.
You know, or
So
all those little subtle things, I think, that help us to see that we're not the centre of the universe at all, that there are other things at work.
There is a spirituality here that is inescapable. And I wonder, and it's a constant search of mine, and I'll put it in musical terms, where does the note go when it vanishes on the earth and the air? Where does the talent go when the musician ceases to breathe and play? To what extent do you think we are orchestrated by a divinity, by some kind of God?
Well, first of all, I really like your point about where does the music go to, because I think that, you know, when we cease to hear it, it doesn't mean that it has gone.
I'm still hearing that song. It's rattling. It's in here. It's there forever. You know.
In terms of spirituality and such things, it's very hard to tell. I mean, we're a tiny part of a huge universe. We look up at night to see the stars. We see some of them. Some of them we're looking at no longer exist. It's just their light that's coming to us. Same like the sound lingering on. And we're on this little ball of earth that's hurtling through space at a very high speed. We don't even sense we're moving. We're like flies in a box of matches in your pocket. If you flew to New York and there's a fly inside a box of matches, it wouldn't know it's going to New York. We're a bit the same.
That would be a very adventurous fly, wouldn't it? Or a very unlucky fly. But you know, it's a wonderful thing, because your mummy and daddy are gone now. My mum and dad are gone now, but yet they live within us. We don't lose it. And do you ever get the sense that they're closer to you than at other times, when you're composing, when you're playing, when you're singing? Do you just feel a kind of good ghostly presence?
Very much so. I do. I play with the family band with Anne and Tommy and Ben. I also do a lot of solo gigs, and I was playing a few years ago in Denmark, and I was on between two Danish bands. One was a band that had represented Denmark in the Eurovision Song Contest, and the other one was a kind of rock band. And you know, just you're sitting in the dressing room before you go on, and there's maybe, I don't know, 1,000 people in the room, and the band were finishing just before I would come on. Like, I was the Irish singer between two Danish bands. It was like an Irish-Danish sandwich. But anyway, the woman in the band, she was saying, on bass, so-and-so, and big applause, and on drums. And I was thinking, God, there's a whole band there, they're singing in Danish. the first language of the country. I'm going out here on my own with just this guitar and songs in English. But when I went out, I told them that, and I said, you know, you're looking at me here, but you think I'm on my own, but actually I'm not. I have all these people I have met and that I'm writing about and that I'm going to sing about. Some of them are my ancestors, some are neighbours, some are people like you that I've met on the road. And for me, all of them are around me on this stage. And it was such, it's the first time I'd ever felt the need to put into words what you just phrased in your question. You know, that this energy and power stays with you wherever you go.
It is energy and power indeed. We approach the close of our programme with you, Colum. Is there a favoured song, not your favourite, but a favoured song that you would like to play for us?
Well, we were, during the break earlier on, we were just talking about Vedran Smilovic, the
cellist from Sarajevo.
And I wrote this song after seeing a documentary telling his story about how he went on the streets of Sarajevo after the people were killed there.
Bombed there, in the rubble.
Yeah. And
his chair and his cello.
That's right. And it got me thinking about buskers, like you have in Newry here and in other towns around the world, how much energy they bring onto the streets. And they're not singing to an invited audience, they're just bringing their music to everyone. So I wrote a song thinking of buskers like the Dunn brothers from Cork, who I heard at a Flag Cole in Clonus when I was there with my father. Maggie Barry, who used to sing in Newry, you would have known her. An amazing woman with a big voice. And when she was asked in 1951 by Alan Lomax, he heard her busking in Dundalk, and he said, Maggie, he was wondering how she would get banjo strings in Dundalk in 1951. And he says, Maggie, where do you get the strings for your banjo? And she says, I unravel the cable brakes of bicycles. So she's another,
isn't that wonderful?
She's another character in the
And she was
song.
probably telling the truth.
Probably was. I also mentioned in this song a man called Klaus who played fiddle in the orchestra in Cologne. Till he got fed up, he said, having to put on a suit to play music and having someone waving a stick at him. So he left the orchestra. He plays on the streets to this day. And I wrote a verse about Smilovic, and when he heard this song, he came to Ireland and he played his cello on the song. And I'm very glad to say he's still living here in Warren Point. So it's a song about the spirit of music and those who carry it and those who support it by giving a few, you know, a pound or a smile even, or a sandwich to a busker on the street. So this is Buskers. I saw them on the streets of Clonus with a flag cole long ago. A white-haired man with a fiddle, his brother had an old banjo. They're blind, said the woman beside us, but by God, them boys can play. That's a swallow's tail, said my father, and the music takes it all away. And if you stop to listen, they're playing for you and I, and their music sings along the strings, between the earth and the sky, between the earth and the sky. Maggie was a travelling singer. You never heard a voice so strong. When she sang in Newry Market, the whole town heard her song. And her voice was known from London to the streets of Baltimore, for she sang her songs along a road that was often walked before. And if you stop to listen, she's playing for you and I, and her music sings along the strings, between the earth and the sky, between the earth and the sky. Beside Cologne Cathedral, a crowd had gathered round. There was singing, there was laughing, and we hurried towards the sound. You said, that's Klaus the fiddler, he plays here every day. Left the orchestra behind him so that everyone could hear him play. And if you stop to listen, he's playing for you and I, and his music sings along the strings, between the earth and the sky, between the earth and the sky. on the streets of Sarajevo, where death walks every day. Smilovich takes his cello and he slowly starts to play, and the people gather round him in the spirit of the marketplace. His music brings both tears and smiles, but it changes every face. And if you stop to listen, he's playing for you and I, and his music sings along the strings, between the earth and the sky, between the earth and the sky. And the music echoes all around, no matter where I stray, like the panpipes from the Andes on Grafton Street today. And some will give them money, and some will ask them why, as the music fills the lonesome place between the street and the sky. And if you stop to listen, they're playing for you and I, and their music sings along the strings, between the earth and the sky, between the earth and the sky.
So very, very beautiful.
Thanks, Ron.
Colum Sands, thank you for being my guest on the program today.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And you're always welcome here.
Thank you very much.
And together we wish our audience farewell, a lovely remainder of their day. Wherever you are, try and enjoy the sentiment of the music. Be happy, and be good companions, always with the bread there too. Take care, go well, be happy, and bring happy with you wherever you go. Thanks, Colum. That was wonderful. Very lovely. Thank you.